So, question 6. A lot of fellows are having sleepless nights with this question.
It's the hard one.
It's the hard one. The last of the essay questions. So, it's question 6. Nelson Mandela was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for working with leaders of the South African government to agree on a peaceful transition to multi-party rule and end apartheid. He was able to forgive those who enforced his imprisonment to achieve a greater goal. Leaders are able to achieve progress despite differing views or identities. Please explain a situation where you have used your leadership skills to resolve a conflict or disagreement with others. What actions did you take and how did you encourage respectful discussion? Kelvin.
250 words.
That's a deep question, but don't let the Nobel Peace Prize, government, apartheid, the weight of that question, it seems very, very deep, but don't let that scare you in answering that question.
I think it says, please explain a situation that you have used your leadership skills to resolve conflict. So I think the biggest thing about this question is conflict resolution. How have you been able to resolve conflict? Maybe it's in your family, maybe it's in your school, maybe it's at home, maybe it's at work, maybe it's in your community. How have you been able to resolve conflict, regardless of whatever nature it is? Remember, this story is not just questions for the application. They're not talking about, mirroring it to Mandela. They're mirroring it to your personal life. In your personal life, how have you been able to resolve conflict? Basically showing us what leadership qualities, it's showing us gauging your leadership quality.
Yeah.
Like, personally, have you been able to resolve conflict? Which instances have you been able to resolve conflict in your personal life? I think that's the biggest part.
That's the biggest part. And remember, the people who are going to be reading these applications are going to be reading a lot of applications, thousands of applications. So you want to let your story be very clear.
Very clear.
And I keep saying this, you got to be very clear, straight to the point, tell your story as it is, and make it very relatable to the person who's reading it. Make sure that it's understandable, it's very concise, it answers what the question requires. What actions did you take and how did you encourage respectful discussion? So, for example, I could say, I had a situation where I had the case of a missing lollipop between me and my siblings, and and the actions that I took were I identified a problem that there was a missing lollipop.
Mm-hmm.
I encouraged respectful discussion. I made sure that we discussed what happened. We sat down, everyone aired their views on where this lollipop may not have gone to, and we resolved that this lollipop needs to be found or needs to be replaced, or that a missing lollipop is a problem in the future for us as siblings.
As a family,
and we discussed it and resolved it. That's an example. I'm not saying use that story as
but that's his family
but
example.
that's my example. I followed a particular action plan, specific steps, and I showed leadership by bringing all the parties together, sitting them down, encouraging and resolving the problem. So
because I think the big thing about the fellowship is that each and every single one of you is applying. You're already a leader. You're already leading a community. You have a project. You have a business. Whatever it is, you already have people that working with you or under you, or you're working for someone. So there's bound to be conflict, because conflict is a part of our lives.
Yeah.
But it's then this question is asking, so how have you resolved that conflict? Whether it's to a big extent on a community level, on a national level, or in a community level, in a family level. Yeah. So I think it's just telling us, show us your ability as a leader to resolve conflict, and how did you do it? I think for me, that's the basic part of this whole question.
Yeah, that's the basic.
So don't think too far. Don't think nationwide, think local. Come back to your community, come back to your platform. Whether it's 5 people, 10 people, 20 people, no matter what the amount of people is, the principle of conflict resolution is the same. Yeah. But it's just that these guys, they used the Mandela on a bigger scale. Now let's think of your situation from a smaller scale, and then it's all about how you present the story.
And also remember, it doesn't matter if you fill out this application. The most important thing is you have to submit the application. So the deadline is coming up, so make sure you fill out this question, run through, get someone to proofread your application.
That's important.
Make sure you correct the grammar. Important. You don't want someone reading the grammar and, they switch off the moment they read something that doesn't strike them, So make sure the grammar is correct, make sure it's concise, it's clear, and that people, when they read it, they completely understand what you're trying to put across, and make sure you submit it before the deadline.
Before the deadline. And remember, the people who read these applications are people. They're human beings. So if we are not able to speak to them, they'll just take it and throw it somewhere. And we don't want that. That's why we're here to say, be clear, be concise.
Be clear, be concise.
And stick to the words.
Stick to the words. Yali 2017, we wish you all the best.